the self-stranger here. There's a version of you that used to laugh easier, used to have opinions, used to want things just for the sake of wanting them. And somewhere between the job, the routine, the responsibilities, and the version of you everyone else needed, that person went quiet. Not gone, quiet. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not just tired. You're disconnected. And today, we're going to talk about how to get yourself back, not with a retreat, not with a rebrand, but with something a lot smaller and a lot more honest. Before you can rebuild something, you have to know it's actually missing. So let's start with 4 quiet signs most people miss. Because they don't look like a crisis. They look like a Tuesday. The first sign is that you can't answer the question. What do you want? Not what you should want. Not what looks good on paper. Not what would make sense to everyone watching. What you actually want. If that question makes you blank out, if it feels almost rude to ask, that's not indecision. That's disconnection. The second sign is that you perform yourself instead of being yourself. You know exactly which version of you to bring to work, which version to bring to your family, which version to bring to your friends. Each one is polished, rehearsed, reliable. But when you're finally alone, there's no script to follow, and it feels strange, almost unfamiliar, like being handed a room with no furniture in it. The third sign is that nothing feels like you anymore. The hobbies that used to pull you in now feel like homework. The things that used to excite you now just feel like one more task competing for your attention. Not because those things changed, because your relationship to wanting things changed. And the fourth sign is that you're reacting to life instead of choosing it. Days just happen to you. You're not steering, you're absorbing whatever comes next and calling it a life. If 2 or more of these hit close to home, you're not going crazy, and you're not uniquely broken. You've just drifted, and drifting, unlike a lot of things people worry about, is actually reversible. So why does this happen in the first place? Here's the part that might surprise you. This isn't a character flaw. It's basically math. Every role you play, employee, parent, partner, provider, friend, asks you to show up a certain way. Reliable, composed, available, steady. And every single one of those roles borrows a little bit of you to make that happen. That's not a criticism of the roles. Most of them are good, even necessary. But over months and years, if nothing is going back in, you start running a deficit. Not a deficit of energy, though that's part of it. A deficit of identity. And here's the twist almost nobody talks about. The people who lose themselves the fastest are usually not the lazy ones, or the checked out ones. They're the most responsible ones. The ones who show up for everyone else first, every single time without fail. Losing yourself isn't a punishment for being bad at life. More often, it's a quiet byproduct of being good at it. So, how do you actually get yourself back? This is the part most self-help content skips entirely. They'll tell you to find yourself, to reconnect, to go inward, and then just leave you there with a vague instruction and no map. So here's an actual map. 4 steps in order, and none of them require quitting your job or disappearing to a cabin for a month. Step 1. Audit your week, not your life. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. That's how people quit by day 3. Just look back at the last 7 days. Which hours felt like they belonged to you? Which ones felt like obligations just wearing your name? You're not trying to fix your whole life in one sitting. You're locating the leak. Step 2. Do one small useless thing on purpose. Something with 0 productivity value attached to it. Draw something badly. Take a walk with no destination and no podcast in your ears. Cook something just because it sounds good, not because it's efficient or healthy or impressive. This sounds trivial, but it's not. It's actually the fastest way to interrupt the belief that everything you do has to be useful. That belief is exactly what made you disappear in the first place. Step 3. Make one decision this week purely for you. Not a huge one, a small, real one, where you choose based on what you actually want. Not what's easiest, not what's expected, not what avoids conflict. This is how you rebuild the muscle of having preferences again, because that muscle genuinely does atrophy from disuse. Step 4, and this is the one people skip because it's the most uncomfortable. Say one true thing you've been avoiding to a friend, to a partner, even just to yourself in a journal where nobody else will ever read it. Something you've been quietly performing around for a while. Disconnection thrives on unspoken things, and this step, more than any other, is the one that actually moves the needle. None of these 4 steps require a life overhaul. They require about 15 minutes total, and a willingness to stop running on autopilot for just long enough to notice yourself again. Now, let's talk timeline because this matters. Nobody finds themselves in one weekend. That's a myth sold by people trying to sell you a weekend. Realistically, if you do small things like this consistently, you'll start to feel the first shift in about 2 to 3 weeks. It won't be a lightning bolt. It'll be quieter than that, more like recognizing your own handwriting after not seeing it for a while. A small, familiar relief, because the goal was never to become someone new. You don't need a new personality, or a new 5-year plan, or a new aesthetic. The goal was always just to stop performing, long enough to start existing again, to let the version of you that wants things and notices things and has opinions come back into the room. You didn't lose yourself in a single day, and you won't get yourself back in one either. But every small, honest choice from here is a step in that direction. If this helped you see yourself a little more clearly, subscribe. I make videos exactly like this every week for people trying to figure themselves out, one honest question at a time. Subscribe, like, and comment for more.